Good evening and good afternoon. Good evening in Saudi Arabia and good afternoon in Maryland. So my name is Aurélien Orange from the Corax Foundation, and with my colleague Mr. Manova, today we have the pleasure to have a match of a day two of the group phase between two universities, Prince Sultan University in Riyadh and University of Maryland in Baltimore. So I give the floor now to my colleague, Mr. Manova.
Thank you very much, and good day to the debaters of Prince Sultan University and University of Maryland. The topic of your day two debate, you have received it 7 days in advance and have prepared for both sides of the argument. It was whether or not internet cables must be regulated as protected global infrastructure requiring cooperative international governance. So before we find out which side you will defend during the match, I will now pass the floor to you for introductions. Starting with University of Maryland, Mr. Keval Ramani.
Hello, very nice to meet everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Sean, and yes, I'm a law student and debater for the University of Maryland in Baltimore.
Welcome. Of Prince Sultan University's team, Ms. Hashim.
Hello, I'm Sirine Hashem. I'm an interior design student, and I'm very excited for this debate.
Welcome. University of Maryland's Ms. Fry.
Hello, my name is Abby Fry, law student here at the University of Maryland, and I am one of the rebuttal speakers. Very excited to meet and debate with you guys today.
Welcome. And of Prince Sultan University, Mr. Mohammed.
Yes, my name is Hassan Muhammad. I am a third-year marketing student, and I just hope to do great in this competition today.
Welcome. For University of Maryland, Ms. White.
Hello, my name is Kadian White. I am a law student here at the University of Maryland, and I'm excited to be here.
Welcome. And Ms. Baksh of Prince Sultan University.
Hello, my name is Maya, and I'm a law student, and I'm also very excited to be here.
Welcome. Also, we would like to thank and give a shout out for the mentors and the coaches of the two teams. For University of Maryland, that's Mr. Hale and Ms. Liang. And for Prince Sultan University is Ms. Adan and Ms. Hashem and Ms. Kuti. I believe Ms. Kuti is also with us. If there's words of encouragement for the teams, perhaps? Or perhaps a little bit of technical difficulty. We've had quite a few matches over the day, so new items happened. In a short while, you should be able to see the wheel for the allocation of positions. If I can just get a confirmation that you see it.
Yes.
Thank you. So 2 possibilities for each team, in favor and against. And for today's debate, it will be the University of Maryland that will defend the against position. Thus, it is the team of Prince Sultan University that will argue in favor of the motion, and thus that internet cables must be regulated as protected global infrastructure requiring cooperative international governance. And the University of Maryland will argue against the motion. You have final 5 minutes for preparations. Feel free to close your cameras. Thank you, everyone. So your time for final preparation has now passed. We'll proceed by hearing the opening statements, starting with the position in favor. Prince Sultan University, you have 4 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Starting in 3, 2. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and distinguished audience. Imagine a world where the heart of our global economy, every bank transfer, every medical record, and every emergency call hangs by a literal thread. That thread is a fiber optic cable resting on a seabed, governed by lex lata written before the digital revolution even begun. In 2024, 3 major subsea cables were severed in the Red Sea, and within hours, a huge portion of the digital lifeline connecting Asia, Europe, and the Middle East was disrupted. Financial markets slowed, military communications were rerouted, governments did not cooperate, they accused. And that is precisely the problem. When these cables are not regulated properly, we do not merely suffer a technical glitch, we face a systematic vulnerability. This debate asks whether we should continue treating the backbone of our civilization as a series of private property disputes, or if we must finally regulate them as protected global infrastructure under cooperative governance. We, as the proposition, fairly support the latter. First, we must modernize our existing treaty law to meet the demand of a digital age. Second, we must address the enforcement vacuum that prevents that true accountability. And third, we must recognize internet cable as a public good, as a global public good to protect our shared future. To begin, we must clarify that a framework already exists within the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Article 58 and Article 112 grant all states the right to lay and maintain submarine cables, recognizing their central role in global communication and interdependence. Thus, the move toward cooperative governance is not an invention of a new law, but the necessary institutional development within an existing treaty framework. Under the principle of evolutionary interpretation, treaties are living instruments. We are simply proposing that the freedom already codified in UNCLOS be modernized through a mandatory framework for collective protection. Second, under the current status quo, Article 13 through 115, Article 115 through 100, Article 113 through 115 of the UNCLOS rely primarily on flag state jurisdiction. While these provisions require states to criminalize intentional or neglect damage, enforcement remains fragmented and dependent on national systems. That is the paradox of our era. The damage is global, but the accountability is not. This creates an enforcement vacuum, a gap between global harm and effective international response. Because subsea cables carry approximately 99% of transoceanic data and trillions of dollars in daily financial transactions, damage is not local, it is systematic. Without a centralized cooperative mechanism, responsibility that no single state can adequately address. Addressing the enforcement vacuum provides security. And lastly, internet cables have transitioned from private commercial assets to infrastructure functioning as a global public good. A global public good is defined as a resource that benefits the international community as a whole, where its disruption results in collective harm. Internet connectivity is no longer optional. It underpins economic stability, healthcare systems, diplomacy, emergency services, and the exercise of modern human rights. In an age of increasing geopolitical tension, infrastructure disruption can escalate rapidly into diplomatic crises, as proven the 2022 ballistic sea incident. So our core question before us is whether a global necessity should remain governed by fragmented national enforcement or whether it demands cooperative international governance. Modernized treaties provide the framework, addressing the enforcement vacuums provide the security, the global public good doctrine provides the purpose. We must ensure that the thread connecting our world is protected through collective responsibility, not left vulnerable under outdated assumptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now passing the floor to University of Maryland for 4 minutes of their opening statements.
Hello, are you able to see and hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. Our world is divided. Rules are unevenly enforced. Power is not evenly distributed. Prime Minister Mark Carney, speaking at the World Economic Forum, acknowledged what many already understand. The system has always been selectively enforced. The strongest would exempt themselves when convenient. That is our reality. The pro would only expand this reality by both relying on unenforceable international conventions and creating more institutions for the great power to impose their will on. Instead of hoping fundamentally flawed internal governance would save us, alternate solutions to protect undersea cables should be sought. Our first contention is that the pro would simply create more unenforceable legal regimes. These new legal structures will serve as new battlefields for great power rivalry rather than protect undersea cables. Currently, only 4 countries actually possess the capability to cause catastrophic harm to undersea internet cables. These great powers are wholly unrestrained by international law. For example, in 2016, a tribunal in The Hague ruled that China's 9-line claims in the South China Sea were invalid. As NPR analyst stated, the ruling is legally binding, but it would be all but impossible to enforce. The ITU, a body of the UN, exists in part to protect undersea cables. As noted in the Atlantic Council in 2024, though, the ITU was recently used to advance one country's interests after a national forum that country was put in charge in 2015. In 2022, this was repeated again with another country. The case of the IPU demonstrates how powerful actors will simply use whatever bodies of transnational governance the pro relies on to forward their interests, decreasing global stability and undersea cable security. Even if these bodies were effective and fair regulators, ownership of the cables themselves would inhibit regulation. In a world where 70% of undersea cables are owned by US tech companies, the US can leverage power over any international governing body. Simply put, the kind of regulation the pro seeks to defend is not only unenforceable, but also risks creating new platforms for great power rivalry. We must turn to more achievable forms of protection for undersea cables. Our second contention is that we should focus on realistic, achievable solutions to undersea cable regulation, rather than investing in the pro's fantasy of effective, universal global governance. 2 possible suggestions are domestic regulation and bilateral treaty arrangements. While imperfect, domestic and bilateral solutions have the capacity to be meaningfully enforced. The School for International Studies noted that the Quad initiative not only strengthens Japan's bilateral ties with the US, but also positions Tokyo as a trusted regional actor in securing digital infrastructure by working through multilateral forums like digital environment in the Indo-Pacific. We must take the alternate route of implementing realistic solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have heard the opening statements. Proceeding to the first rebuttal. Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes for yours.
Am I audible and visible?
You are.
Okay, I will begin in 3, 2, 1. Judges, we oppose the opposition's claims that unequal power distribution and unenforceable institutions, like their citing to the 2016 tribunal ruling against China, but that case was under the Permanent Court of Arbitration, and it actually proves the opposite. Even when a major power rejected the ruling, the decision reshaped global legal discourse, strengthened regional alliances, and reinforced maritime norms under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas. International law is not enforced by police, it's enforced by reputation, reciprocity, and long-term strategic cost. If power imbalance were a reason to abandon regulation, then every international treaty would collapse, yet the global order still runs on them. Crucially, when 99% of global data traffic is funneled through vulnerable choke points like the Strait of Malacca, leaving infrastructure under fragmented national controls allows a single state to hold the entire world's digital economy hostage. Only a global mandate can ensure that these arteries are protected from unilateral leverage. UNCLOS is a legal continuation of an earlier framework. Take the 1884 Submarine Telegraph Convention, where it introduced criminalization of cable damage. Now, states are allowed to penalize it. Therefore, laws must rise with necessity. Today's necessity is international protection of digital infrastructure because its disruption triggers systemic global harm. Article 112 of UNCLOS affirms this. It says that all states are entitled to lay submarine cables, reflecting race communists, which is a shared international interest. If all states can enjoy this right, then they should also be able to share the responsibility for its regulation. And we already see this in the International Telecommunication Union, where states coordinate and agree to not interfere with one another's communication standards, providing that corporate governance of shared infrastructure is both possible and effective. What stops us from coherently extending this to undersea cables? Thank you.
Thank you. University of Maryland, you have 2 minutes for the against rebuttal.
Am I audible and visible?
Try again without the echo.
Sorry, am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Thank you for your patience. I will start in 3, 2, 1. So, although UNCLOS is certainly aspirational in terms of what we want to establish in terms of creating norms, unfortunately, the US, which its companies are actually running 70% of all of the undersea cables, the US is not even a member of UNCLOS. So they don't necessarily need to abide by Article 101, meaning that whatever sort of enforcement mechanisms that we try to create would only essentially secure great power regulatory capture. And this notion that although it is true that international law generally revolves around norms and reputation, if we go to the case of the Arctic Sea, or Arctic Sun case, Russia is actually a state party to UNCLOS, unlike the US. And UNCLOS established the International Tribunal, but when Russia was called to appear before it, they just simply refused to show up. And then there's also a great speculation, for example, that Russia might have been largely responsible for what happened in 2024 in the Baltic Sea. But as we see necessarily with Russia's war in Ukraine, it's not necessarily something that is too popular, but Russia just keeps it going ahead, regardless of the reputation. So this basically shows that regardless of whatever norms might be set, and even institutions, whether it be UNCLOS or the ITU, which when a Chinese diplomat was in power of it, actually resulted in Japan engaging in multilateral trade agreements with the US and Australia, as well as India. It makes a shift in recognizing that norms are insufficient and that countries need to actually be pragmatic in engaging with the allies that they do have in order to secure their communal security interests.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed to hear the second rebuttal by the Prince Sultan University for the in favor position.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Okay, my speech will begin in 3, 2, 1. Despite the opposition's claim of global governance and how it's too difficult, principally, no state benefits from fragmentation when consequences are shared. Just as we accept an international civil aviation organization to ensure our planes fly safely abroad, we must accept a body for the cooperative governance of cables to ensure our data remains secure. The opposition likes to state that that there are practical enforcement issues. However, this confuses difficulty with impossibility. International law routinely manages complex spaces, including our outer space and deep sea mining. A global framework improves clarity in disputed waters rather than worsening tensions. Cooperative frameworks are already used to manage global maritime safety. We're only asking to extend the internet cables given harm it causes to, like including political tension and economic losses and even healthcare. Also, the opposition also likes to claim that local authorities are responsible for local problems. However, the opposition avers that cable security is a local problem requiring local authority. However, the contention is fundamentally myopic, as demonstrated in the 2022 Tonga volcanic eruption. The severity of a single local cable line doesn't just impact one island, it paralyzes global emergency responses, including banking, regional stability, and this happened for weeks. This serves as the pragmatic calibration of the facts. When a digital artery is cut, the hemorrhage is global. Judges, at this core, the debate comes down to reality. The opposition leans on propositions such as state sovereignty and how global governance is too difficult, but they fail to answer how fragmented control can prevent systemic global damage. It has been established when a single disruption is transcontinental, the impact is no longer local, because when harm is global, protection must be collective.
Thank you very much. For the second rebuttal in the against position, University of Maryland.
Can everyone hear and see me? Awesome. Let's get started. Judges, first thing that you need to understand today is that international law lacks enforcement. So even if the or the pro in today's debate modernizes UNCLOS and the treaties and the existing framework, if there's no enforcement, then it doesn't matter. We see in the Arctic Sunrise case that Russia didn't even show up to the arbitration. They didn't adhere to the decision that they made. So even if arbitration or changes in maritime law takes place, if the countries actually don't adhere to the decisions or care about it because there's no enforcement happening, then there's no impact in today's debate. So strike that off your flow. We also see that if the organizations are supposed to enforce and create best practices for these developments in maritime law are controlled or have a significant influence from hegemonic states such as China and the ITU, then the enforcement and the benefits for these countries are not going to be equal. Secondly, we see that bilateral treaties also work for aviation as well. There's open sky policies, which eliminate government intervention in airline decision making. We also see that air transport agreements are bilateral agreements between nations allowing international commercial air transport services between them. So international governments of air travel, which is brought up in today's debate, can also happen with bilateral treaties and are successful in that way. We also see that 3, private companies have not been referred to by the pro in today's debate. And as private companies are a specific and multifaceted and substantial actor in today's debate, they may not adhere to the international governance as well. States are not the only actor in today's debate, and they're not going to adhere to international laws if the states themselves don't adhere to international laws, because there's a lack of enforcement, even if it is modernized, and that bilateral treaties have worked in the past, continue to work. We must take the alternate route in today's debate and reject the resolution for a more fair and equal world with undersea cables. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the closing statements, Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, distinguished audience. The way to protect the digital lifeline of our nations is not through ignorance and a lack of action, but through clear international protective frameworks and cooperative international governance. We have demonstrated that the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas already recognizes these cables, but enforcement is structurally weak, and that their function today demands collective protection. First, the UN clause Articles 58 and Articles 112 already recognizes submarine cables, and under evolutionary interpretation, updating their protection is not new law, but necessarily growth, like reinforcing the foundations of a house built before the storm. Second, Articles 113 to Article 155 rely solely on flag state jurisdiction, leaving accountability dependent on one state alone, and creating an enforcement vacuum, a legal blind spot in the middle of the ocean. Third, these cables are now a global public good. They are the nervous system of our global society, and something so vital cannot be shielded by fragmented national efforts alone. Furthermore, we've demonstrated that recognition without enforcement is illusion. A system that relies solely on flag states creates a vacuum of accountability in the very waters where protection is needed most. Rights exist, but real protection does not. Modernized treaties provide the framework. Cooperative governance provides the security. Global necessity provides the purpose. When the very thread that holds our world together lies unprotected in the dark depths of the ocean, will we protect it or will we wait for it to snap? Thank you.
Thank you. For closing statement in the against position, University of Maryland.
Thank you. I will start in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and our digital audience, today we discuss a reality that indeed cannot be ignored, and similarly, it cannot be diluted. The reality is that accountability is not possible without enforcement, and that there are zero enforcement mechanisms today, especially for hegemonic powers. And we see this in every single one of the 3 great powers currently. For example, the opposition has frequently mentioned UNCLOS and its various articles. But once again, the US is not a member of UNCLOS, despite the fact that 70% of cables around the world are all run by American private companies, which the American government is very close to, including our current president, as well as the CEOs of numerous of these tech companies, which are increasingly encroaching. Furthermore, China, when it was actually the head of the ITU, tried to partner with its own private organizations, such as Huawei, to push some privacy concerns, which actually resulted in other multilateral agreements being developed in order to circumvent and try to result in real accountability. Furthermore, Russia, even in the Arctic Sea case, just simply refused to actually show up when it came to their time to have some accountability. So there's been zero enforcement, and essentially whichever country has the most power is always able to do whatever they want, regardless of whatever norms are established. Rather, what actually seems to be working is the alternative that countries have established, which would be these domestic regulations, such as what we see in Singapore, which is they actually result in excluding man-made harm. So although there might be a volcano in some places, they will actually just penalize what goes on in their area. And if everybody is held accountable to do that for every area, that is going to be more realistic than having countries not be able to do any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both teams, and congratulations on completing your day 2 debate for this year's edition of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament. As per day 1, the judges have 2 working days to review and submit their scores. Once we validate them, we'll share them with you as well, so you can anticipate it in the first half of the next week, most likely. And your next matches, the topics will be once again sent 7 days in advance. So keep an eye out on the inboxes in those time periods. But already now we have an option to run through feedback on how it was for your teams to prepare, to look into the topic, and perhaps you might have heard the familiar arguments from the opposing team side from your own researches. So starting by giving the floor to Princeton University team, perhaps Ms. Hashem, how was the debate for you today?
I really did enjoy today's debate. I believe we all had different points, which made it harder to rebuttal. So I'm proud of both teams, in my opinion. And yeah, it was a nice debate.
Thank you. Ms. White of University of Maryland.
Yes, I really enjoyed today's debate, and the topic was very interesting. We found so much research on the topic. It's something that I never really thought about before. So thank you for suggesting this topic, and good luck to the other side as well.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Mohammed.
Yeah, it was a very good debate. I also agree with Ms. Hashem. The points were very different, so it was very hard to, at least for our rebuttals and our closing, to really rebut their points. But overall, it was a very, very strong debate from both sides, and it was very nice to be part of this debate. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Kavalar-Ramani.
Hi. Yeah, I really enjoyed this debate. I think everybody came in with excellent skills and a lot of research put back and forth. And I have to agree with Ms. White. I really appreciate this debate because it allows me the opportunity to actually investigate some of these really pressing concerns that I really haven't investigated beforehand. So I appreciate the education.
Ms. Baksh?
I enjoyed today's debate a lot, and I really actually enjoyed researching and seeing the points that we made for both sides. It's interesting whenever I listen to their side of the debates because our points were actually very different. Yeah.
And Ms. Fry?
I enjoyed today's debate. I think debate is an important activity overall to keep yourself informed on current issues. I mean, we're using the internet right now to do this debate. So if an undersea cable was cut, disruption. So I had a great time, very strong competitors, and I like clash in a debate, and I thought there was some great clash. So thank you.
Well done. Once again, well done to your teams. On that note, we usually wrap up the debate with a bit of networking. So for day 2, we have 2 different questions from day 1. And the first one would be something you have already hinted upon when you've talked about researching for this debate. And that would be what skill or aspect of legal reasoning have you seen, observed for yourself and your teammates to be used or challenged the most in the competition so far? So first to University of Maryland, you can choose if you answer as a whole team or just one of your members.
One thing that we have not talked a whole bunch, I can only speak for myself, I'm not sure about my other teammates, so far in our classes is international law. So I feel like this activity gives us a good supplement to actually understand what treaties are out there, what tribunals are out there, how arbitration works, so we can create stronger cases. I also think that helps our reasoning and also compares, domestic U.S. law to international law and see how they compare, which gives us a greater sense of what's happening not only in the debate but the world itself.
Perhaps your colleagues, if you would like to add on. And well, then the same question to Prince Sultan University team. What skill or aspect of legal reasoning are you using the most, or perhaps are challenged to improve on?
I think I'll take this question since I'm the only law student on the team. Just like Abby, I am taking public international law, so seeing topics that we take in class appear in research and, researching actually helps me with my class and stuff. And in terms of research, I like to collaborate with my teammates and see what type of things that they bring up, and we like to put all the topics in a little document and talk about each one and things like that. I also email my teacher. She helps me a lot, and yeah, that's how it's been so far.
Great, thank you. So for the second question, it's day 2. Your match is actually taking part in the second half of the day 2 matches. There are, I believe, 1 or 2 more matches to go before we wrap up this round. But the question would be, have you been able to follow any other debates so far in this edition? Or perhaps have you prepared in advance by looking into debates from the previous year? And if so, was there a match or a team or perhaps a topic that stood out or challenged you or inspired you? So this one first to Prince Sultan University's team.
I can answer that. For our team, we like to look at our old universities debates that were also in The Hague, and we watched their points. We watched other people's points. We watched, I think, 3 years back. I think as much as you guys posted, I'm not sure, but we made sure to watch to look at the structure of the debates and how everything was going and how the speeches were being said.
All right, thank you for sharing. And the same question to University of Maryland.
So I actually been stalking the YouTube page and watching old videos of our team, and also I think it was Catholic University in France. I'm not really sure, but it was a French team. Their videos really stood out to me, the way how they articulated the points and stood their ground. I think that's all. Thank you.
All right. Well, on that point, I would like to pass the floor back to Professor Lavanche to wrap us off for today. But once again, really well done to your teams today.
Yes, well done. Congratulations for this second match. Obviously, during the next days, we are looking forward to get as well the score sheets to share it with you. And I think now you are fully in the group phase. And obviously, you will have the third match against the team you did not meet in this group H. So I believe it will be the University of Maryland will have the match against the University of Nairobi. And that will be Prince Sultan University will meet IULM University of Milan in the next day 3 match, yes. So well done, congratulations, and of course we keep in touch, and don't hesitate to keep contact if you wish with every team that you have a match with, and there will be the networking session after the group phase. So thank you and congratulations again for this day 2 match. So wish you the rest of the week. Thank you and bye-bye.
Well done.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.